yeah, I don't know how this one came about really, but I fancied to have a go at some little sort of 3D figures, and I wanted to use my sort of fairy dust technique on them to give them some sort of texture. Partly because I just like the sort of fuzziness of it, but the other reason for doing it is really so that it covers up a multitude of sins. I don't know about you, but I kind of, sometimes I get a bit tetchy with being able to see the mechanics of it, all the gubbins and the bits where it doesn't go quite right, and sort of wanted to keep the joint at the back, but it doesn't always. Sometimes it comes around the front, and thinking, oh blow, how am I going to cover that up? So I thought, oh, it would be a good way of sort of making a shape and sort of adding bits onto it, and then kind of covering up so you can't really see. So people go, oh, but that's not quilling, and you go, well, yes, it is inside, sort of thing. So that was kind of where that came from. The nice sort of penchant for baby penguins. He came first. As a sort of thing to do, really. You can pass him round. You just need to be a little bit careful, but as I say, please don't worry if bits fall off, and don't go, oh, I've broken it, because you haven't, because bits do fall off all the time. So don't worry about it. It's sort of excess baggage. And it was trying to sort of find a sort of standard model that wasn't too complicated. Depending on what you did with it, you could turn it into something else. So I did the penguin first, and then it's sort of like the penguin but laying down really a bit, and I did the sheep. And then the beauty of it is, once you've done the sort of basic form, you can just halve everything, halve the number of strips of paper that you use, and then just sort of make a little baby version. Oh, except he's not so good at standing up, this one. I think he's a newborn. Yeah. They're a bit wobbly, aren't they? Oh, and then Mum gives him a lick, and then they're all up and going. So we'll pass that one round that way. I think maybe we leave the newborn to just sort of sit and look at you ladies there. But anyway, I don't usually join together all in a row, but I had today to make it quicker for you. Okay. So basically, we'll do what we'll do. The sheep one is basically just two coils like that, and then the head just sort of put on at a jaunty angle like that. That's how I did it. So that's that one. I'll run through the things in a minute. Yeah, so just two of those. They're the same. They're the same number of strips for the body. Each of those coils is 8 strips worth, just rolled one on each other into a tight coil. Okay. One's pushed out slightly more than the other. The head one's slightly less pushed out. But I mean, you know, it's all experimentation really. And the owl, there was slightly smaller, there was slightly less paper, but I think I might have pulled it out a bit more. The owl is 7 strips worth in each one, and obviously up that way. And then for the head, I just sort of stuck it on at a jaunty angle that way, like that. There's the big one there, and there's the little baby one, which I was going to do this morning, ladies and gentlemen, but didn't get round to it. Got up early as well, but doing other things. So that's like a nude one, like an owl without any feathers on or anything at all. Look at this.
How many strips are in the head, sorry?
The head, sorry. For the main one, 8 in the body, the 2 ends, 5. 5 for the head. Yeah. And I can't remember for the owl. I think it was probably, it's sort of about half. The head is kind of half whatever the value for the body. I think I probably put in about 3.5 strips for the owl head, and it's got 7 strips for the top half and 7 strips for the bottom for his body. Okay, so we'll roll one of these up for so we look as if we're actually doing some quilling. And sometimes, I mean, I vary between doing 1 strip at a time. I think probably my preferred option, so I don't get into a tangle, is do 1 strip, join on the next strip, do another strip until you've got the whole thing. And sometimes I join them all together like I have today. And everybody's got their preference, haven't they? Some people do it one way, some people do it the other way. Doesn't really matter. I haven't found with these, quite often if I'm doing this kind of thing and it's going to show, this is actually going to be a finished bin. That one's not too bad actually, but sometimes they come out a bit uneven, shall we say, because when you pull them out, they don't come out even. I expect you've found this. and it knows, that blimmin' paper knows where the join is, doesn't it? And you get that ridge, and unless you do it really, really smoothly, you always get that little step up where the next one comes out. But with this, it doesn't matter quite so much, because once you've covered it over, you're not going to be aware of that ridge, because like love, it covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it? It'll all be covered over. So that's quite good. So with these ones, you know, as I say, don't be too cavalier about it, but a little bit cavalier. So hey-ho, it's not going to show, is it? So don't really mind. Gets to a stage, I expect you find this, ladies, where you just do it with your hand, because it gets too much to roll on the tool, doesn't it? And it comes out a bit. This is probably the scariest bit of all. This is the bit I think, oh, do I do one already done? I think it's a bit of a cop out, isn't it? So, and this is the bit where it always falls out. I don't think, why do I do such a scary thing when there's all these people watching? I only do this in the privacy of my own home and drop it. Please, please, let things be as they. I can see why Farah got through so much glue. I was thinking, how do you manage to use so much glue?
Oh, that's Amna.
Oh, Amna, I beg your pardon, sorry. But it's the coating, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the filling in, yes. So there we are. Bit of easy. Now, with these, you don't need to worry too much about, you know, how big it is and everything. Just do it to your satisfaction, whether you want a, you know, a fat sheep, a thin sheep, one that's just been shorn. You know, I suppose that would be like that, wouldn't it, really? But anyway. I found the easiest way of doing that is to take the main bit off your glue thing. Now, the best thing I found for actually coating glue is a hardened PVA already coated cotton bud. And yeah, I heard somebody say they're really good, these, aren't they? Whoever invented these did a jolly good job. They never stopped making them. And just coat it on the inside, and as they say, and I say on numerous occasions, allow to dry. Because if you don't allow to dry properly, it'll all fall apart, won't it? So there we are, and here is some I have prepared earlier. Now, you want me to join these together now, don't you?
Yes.
Oh dear, shucks. It's all part of the demonstration. Oh, it's all part of the stress. Oh, stress city,
You don't
eh?
have a mini mold. You can always use a bead, a big bead, or
Right,
a little ball,
as a
or
former.
anything like that to
Yeah.
push it.
Yes, that's a good idea. It's just finding something of the right diameter, isn't it, or whatever you call it. Yeah, yeah. You could do it that way. Yes, there's lots of ways of getting around these things, pushing things out and what have you, isn't there? Again, you don't need to be overly careful about the glue. I mean, normally I'm like, you're really careful with that glue there. Don't you go getting that on anything. But with this, you don't need to worry too much. So we'll glue those two together, like so. Oh dear, there we are. And usually, when that's dry, I would just stick a strip just around the middle, just to kind of enclose it and to keep it together and make sure it's going to be all right, just to neaten that off. So that's that. That's his body. I don't know which way around that is now, really, because there's not much in it. I think there's that one slightly longer, so that would be his sort of tailing. And then this isn't completely dry, so I'm being a little bit careful. And instead of just sort of sticking it on there like that, it looks like some kind of missile, doesn't it? Sort of, you know. You just sort of
It looks like
on.
a piece of a delicious chocolate.
This one, this ended up being the demonstration model, but this one was going to be a black sheep, because had I had the time, had I started quite a while earlier than I actually did, I was going to have an ordinary sheep and a black sheep. But things being what they were, that didn't happen. So anyway, he's served his purpose as a sort of as the master one.
Sorry, Diane, when you say stick a strip around the middle, do you mean a full strip or just stick
No,
one
just
round once?
Just go round
one
once.
covering,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah. And then stick his head on like that, which I won't do that because that's not quite dry. So basically, it's the same principle for this. What I ended up doing with these ones, so that he stands down. I found the easiest way of doing it. I tried it both ways. I tried starting off with just like a big loop and then building it up from there. And that didn't work so well. So what I did, I just ended up doing it the same principle as that, but before that was dry, I just pulled a section of the bottom out of it. before it had just dried and
Okay.
before I'd coated it inside with glue, just sort of pulled at the end a bit. You know, like when it does fall out. This is like, I'm wanting this one to fall out. And you know when that happens, when you're wanting to do it, it's blooming difficult because you can't get hold of it. And it's like, fall out, and it won't, because if you didn't want it to fall out, it would fall out just like that, wouldn't it? That's the way of things. But I sort of did it to about there. So you've got that, I don't know, like about a sort of the old, about like a 5p, I suppose, that sort of size. And just get rid of that bit so that he stands up. I mean, you could do it the other way, try it both ways, but I did find it was easier to make it silly and pull it out afterwards rather than to try and do it from a sort of standing start. So it's basically the sort of kind of same kind of thing really, isn't it? This one's a little bit narrower, so it's only got 7 strips. And there we are, and then his head on like that. So that's that. That's how the penguin started out life. That one was a little bit bigger, I think, wasn't it? I obviously changed my mind along the way, and I didn't write it down, which is always a silly thing to do, not write it down. The other bits and pieces, the wings and things, I used just really narrow strips. It's probably something like 1.5. I would have just cut a strip through. 2mm is probably a tinsy-wincy bit wide, so you're better off with a 1.5. Because I found that if it was quite thin, let's find a bit here that's about that. Here's some we cut earlier. This is some JJ waste I've got here, which I will be distributing freely among the masses after we've done this, if you want some thin strips to do your fur and whatnot. But for now, it's like a bird's nest, isn't it? There we are. I found that if you use a really, really thin strip, you can sort of manipulate it a bit to kind of bend round, because if paper's too thick, it'll bend one way, but it won't bend the other way. So a thin paper sort of did it really. Do it this way round. Oh, that's it. This is probably a bit too thin as I'm looking at it, but never mind. We'll give it a go in the interests of discovery or something. Now let that go. I think it was about sort of, what have I said? Have I written it down? No. For the owl's wing, I think it's about half a strip, something like that.
So it's the owl or the penguin?
Both.
So both,
Yeah.
right.
Sort of powl or sort of owl wing or a sort of cross.
Any wing.
Yes, a sort of crossbreed. Yeah, they're kind of a bit interchangeable, really. But I'm sure if there was going to be, you know, a whole menagerie of things, really, but time beat me. But I think it's one of those things that you could probably adapt. Another one that I was going to do, which I didn't get round to, I'm telling you things that didn't happen, was I was going to do one in a sort of pale, pastel pinky colour and make a pig, like the sheep, and that was going to have wings, like a flying pig. That didn't happen either, but you know, things that you might have seen. So Phil cheated everybody. Those are things she didn't show us. Terrible, wasn't it? There we go. Right, so there's his sort of wing, like that. Don't worry, things will pop out because it's dead thin, is that. But you can see it's got quite a bit of give in it. I would probably coat it with some glue before you start manipulating it. So hold it at a point where you can get hold of it. And just put some glue here and there, just to help it along its way and stop it all sort of popping out all together. And then you're going to get a bit of glue on your fingers, but never mind. And then you can sort of mould it round a little bit. I don't know whether you can see, it's difficult to see at a long way away, isn't it? Oh, you do get mucky with this. But you're going to, well, the middle's going to come out. And
Is it a teardrop?
No, it's a sort of owl's wing shape. It's a sort of, you know, the kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a sort of eye, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's a slight teardrop. It's a sort of a bit roundy at the end, but not like a proper one. But it's a pointy teardroppy eye, roundy shape. Oh, nobody's taking minutes for this. Calls herself a fellow of the Quilling Guild. It's a roundy, pointy, owly, shapey thing, you know. Oh dear, I don't know. Can't get the stuff. It's Sunday, isn't it? You can't get the stuff.
You want a big screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can see you.
See, I know. I'm so sorry. This is the trouble, isn't it, with the beeswax? Anyway, something like that. But you can see it's got a bit of a curve on it, hasn't it? It's got a bit of a curve on it. For those that can't see, I promise you, it's got a bit of a curve on it as that. So we'll allow it to dry. You need to let that allow to dry. And it does look a bit sort of gappy at the moment. But once you've thrown your fairy dust at it, and that's dried, and then there's some gaps in it, and you throw a bit more fairy dust at it, that will fill in the gaps. Right, speaking of fairy dust, I've got glue on my fingers now, which isn't good for making fairy dust really. Now, if I'd been a good girl, I would have remembered all the wires and we could all have had a practice, but as I haven't been a good girl and I forgot, I haven't. So I've been quite chuffed. I've had a bit of feedback from workshop I did earlier in the year when I was showing people how to do spiralling, and you know, they struggled on the day, and everybody had a go, and some were better than others, and some people got it straight away, and some people didn't get it at all. But I had an email from somebody just before we came away for the weekend saying, you know, that spiralling you showed us, I've cracked it now. So I was quite chuffed because we did the workshop in May, I think it was, and it's August. But that's good, isn't it? This lady feels that she's really cracked it, so that's great. So, bit of wire, but spit's important, you need the spit. Hold the paper about 45-degree angle. The worst bit, everybody says the worst bit is starting off, isn't it? Yeah. Once you've started,
so it's 2 different colours.
It's just a cream strip, just on a wire, on a I think it's a rose wire, type of florist wire, very thin.
Do you sell that here?
No, we don't. No, we don't. We should do, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
We must get it on the site actually. But anyway, yeah. I say it was one of those things you can get anywhere. Florists are not never that keen to sell it to you, I don't think. But it is available on the internet. I have looked it up, and it is cheap.
And it's called rose wire.
Yeah, I think it's called rose wire. Yeah, I don't know what gauge it is. It's just like there's 3 types of wire to me: thin wire, thick wire, wire in between.
Thin wire.
And this is very thin one. Yeah. So you get to the end.
Try and make cake decorations. Very fun.
Cake decoration, yeah.
Yes, that's another good idea. Get about halfway through, and I find the easiest thing to do is to turn it upside down, because I think you need gravity to help you along. Gravity is your friend, because that will just let that bit roam free. The other thing with this, ladies, is you don't need to worry too much about the beauty and consistency and general wonderfulness of your spiralling, because you are, in effect, going to chop it up into bits. Now, I always think this is a bit like that American sketch thing, you know, with where he goes and discovers tobacco, and you know, he comes back and they say, "You do what with it?
Oh, yeah.
You roll it up,
yeah.
and you put it in your mouth, and you set light to it."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh right, okay." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I promise you, it really works." Well, this is a bit like that. Is it? So, what do? You roll up a bit of paper, you get lots of bit of paper, you cut them up, you get a pile of paper, you know. But it's the only way that I've discovered where you can get that volume in the paper. If you just sat there and you cut up a few straight bits of paper, what you would get is a few straight bits of paper stuck onto your animal, which is not going to look textural. It's because you've put that curve into the paper.
Have you took the wire out now?
I've taken the wire out now, sorry, missed that.
You
were busy writing. Yeah, I know, it's difficult, isn't it? You can do a little bit of pull and twist in between, about an inch at a time. We'll tighten it up. I'll do that bit again. Oh, it's another bit of paper here. There we are, especially for you, Rachel.
Okay.
A bit more spit. I'm sure health and safety go mad when they say a bit of spit. Bit of spit. But as long as it's your own spit and your own wire, you know, don't share wires. So, right, about halfway down, we've turned it round and off we go again. And you'll be pleased to know, here's some I prepared earlier as well. You need, like, I can't lie to you, can I? You need a reasonable amount to do something like that. You don't need as much to do a baby one. No, I can't tell you how many strips, because it's like, oh, how long's a piece of string? It's one of those things, oh, I think I've got enough now. No, you probably haven't. You need to do some extra. And then when you've done the extra, that'll probably be enough, and you'll have a bit left over. It's like making yoghurt, I think, where you start off with a bit, and you've always got a bit, haven't you? Because it makes the next lot. So it's a little bit like that. You just kind of add to it as you go along. Right, so, is this the same colour as that? Yes, I think it is. Hopefully it is, else we'll have a bit of a mixture there. So then, you've got a few... Are we all right for time? Yes, okay. I usually do about, I don't know, half a dozen strips at a time, because, you know, it's all snipping and you want to sort of save on snipping time by doing a lot together. You usually get a bunch sort of like that. It's not very scientific. You've got enough in your hand, cut it through like that, and then it's not so bad when you go to cut through. And you'd want to try and keep what you're cutting fairly low to your surface there, so it doesn't all go everywhere. You will get a little bit of fallout, and it will go sort of all over the place, but you want to try and control it a bit and just keep it down as much as you can. And yeah, there's no way around this, is there? It's just tedious. You can do the spiralling in front of the telly because it doesn't require any glue or too much concentration once you get into the swing of it, and I think it is one of those things that is practice makes perfect, but I do acknowledge it is something that people do struggle with and do find difficult. But maybe it's just kind of working through the barrier like that lady did. She was like determined she was going to do it, and she did, and she's really happy now. So that's good. I haven't found a quicker or a less labour-intensive way of doing this. Come back next time, do another demo, and say I found another way. But it's been a few years now, and I haven't. No, I should have done this a different colour really. But what should we do? I know we'll do the I won't go do the whole thing because it's a bit tedious to watch. The handy thing, I tell you ladies, with the owl, you can put them on your finger like that. Even the baby one. That's quite good because then you can sort of hold it without actually having to hold the thing. Now when you come to do the sprinkling on, it's best just to concentrate on a tiny little area at a time, because like the glue will dry if you put too much glue on it anyway, so you've wasted your time. And then if you just work on a little section and shake it off, and then you can move on and do the next bit. So I'll probably, this one's got the top taken off. Be careful with this, so don't come out. Everybody's watching, aren't they? Would it? That's it, that's about enough. So if I just do like his front, you can see, it's easier to see once it has dried because you'll see where there are some bald patches, and sure enough, right on cue, I've got a bald patch. There you are. That was done specially for you ladies so that you can see. But it always happens. However, it's amazing, however thorough you feel that you've been with the glue, you always seem to manage to get a bald patch somewhere. I don't know what that says. That says that we're not perfect, doesn't it? I think that's what that says. So I've got a little bald patch there. So I'm going to put a little bit extra glue on there and give him a little bit of a TLC. And then it's just a case of sort of fiddling around with it, isn't it, really? Sort of neatening it and making sure your bits are stuck on and pushing it. You've got a little bit of margin for moving it around and pushing it about so that it sticks and it makes the kind of effect that you want. And I've got another bald patch there. You just fix one and then another one pops up. So you can see hours of endless pleasure with this, filling the bits where you've missed and tapping it and bits falling off and waiting for it to dry. So that's his sort of front bit done, and then you can just go round and carry on sort of literally covering where the joins is. Look, I've made an absolute hideous dog's breakfast sort of join at the back there. Oh, how bad is that? That would not pass any time quilling test, would it? But you're going to cover it up, so I'm not overly worried, and nobody will know any different once you've finished that. So that's him basically. This one, partly because I fancied a mottled effect and partly because I didn't have enough of any one colour. I thought it might look quite fun just doing it, so I mixed. I am sad, aren't I? I used the windows from envelopes, and I make these little plastic bags so that you can see what colour bits. I've got hundreds of these indoors. That's sad. I've cut up a lot of bits of paper in my time, haven't I? Dear, oh dear. But they came in handy. And I haven't used them for ages. A lot of these will have been used for chocolates, but they're quite handy. So that's what I do, and just sort of seal them down so it doesn't all fall out. And then you've got them for another occasion. So that was, I don't know what I used that for, because that was a mixed up one, and I thought, oh, that'd look quite fun. To do the owl. Now for the ears, all I did was make just a tiny little triangle, probably about out of an 1/8 strip for the ear, something like that. Again, it would have been sort of small 2mm, slightly under 2mm width, and just made a little triangle. I think if I was doing it again and it wasn't like the prototype, I would have stuck the ears on plain, just the quilling, and then I would have incorporated that with the sprinkling on, because an owl's ear is actually quite small. I can't believe I'm having these conversations sometimes, but it's small because you've got nothing to get hold of. You're trying to cover it with fairy dust. It's like I'm running out of surface here, so I think another time I would stick the ears on and then just sprinkle on the whole thing. But you find these things out, don't you, as you go along. When you're doing something for the first time, you make a mental note and write it down and think, I won't do that next time. So that's that.
The wings put on after?
The wings are put on after, yes. So we've got our one that's sort of dried out. I'll do it on the. I might as well use this just to sort of show you. It doesn't really matter what colour it is, does it? So there's a little baby one that's dried from a previous time, and I just put some glue on there. Again, probably best you've got something to hold on to, so you want to sort of do it in 2 halves, and just glue the surface and then the sides like that, and then. Easiest thing to do is just offer it up to your sprinkles and roll it in. It does look a bit of a state when you first take it out because the bits don't sort of stick on evenly. You have to sort of mess around with them a little bit, but eventually that will dry. You don't need to do it on the inside, you just need to do it on the outside surface, alright? And then when that's dry, the whole thing's dry, then you would just stick that onto the outside of the body, like that, alright? And the eyes are just like a daisy, you know, like a fringe flower with a centre glued on, and the beak and feet. Yeah, the feet look just like the penguin's feet, of course they are. I thought, how can you do them different really? They're probably a bit big, but you need something for them to sort of stand. The other thing I did, because otherwise, where you've got the feet, it does tend to sort of lean back a bit. So what I did is just to put like a semicircle, just a little strip on the back there, so it levels up the surface so they're on the same level. This one I didn't, you can see he's going a bit wrong there where he's been rattling around in the box, but what I should have done was put some sprinkles on that bit as well to cover it up, but I did do that with the owl. He's got a few sprinkles on that back bit just so that he stands up
And what colour
properly.
fairy dust do you use for that?
Which
For
fairy
the
dust?
penguin.
The penguin. Oh, now the penguin. The fairy dust was interesting on that. It's actually graduated paper because I didn't have. I wanted it to be, I suppose, a bit more gradual. I was going to do like a grown-up one, a black and white one, but I fancied to do a baby penguin, and they're kind of grey, aren't they?
Yes,
Before they get
yes,
their proper feathers. So I used graduated paper, and I used the pale end for the face. And then as it got darker and darker, I used that bit for the rest of him. So you've got, like, when it's all cut up, you've got your dark end of the graduated paper, and you've got your middle section, and you've got your slightly lighter section. Yeah. And so they were kind of all mixed up together.
Yes.
And I reserved the white bit of the graduated paper to do his face bit, and I just used black for the top. It was the only way I could think of getting a variation in the colour. A subtle way of doing it, because they're kind of lots of colours, aren't they, when you sort of look at them.